Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, good morning. It's a real pleasure and privilege to be able to address you this morning as part of the philanthropy sector. I say as part of, not representing or on behalf of, because it's impossible to represent such a diverse sector. In the US alone, there are more than 90,000 foundations, and the European Foundation Center estimates that in Europe, there are about 110,000 public benefit foundations. There are hundreds more in India, South Africa, China, Colombia, and other countries, more every day, stretching across the countries of the world. Most of these could be acknowledged as contributing to one of the 17 proposed Sustainable Development Goals. The majority fund domestically, and many, and increasingly, internationally. And since the goals are universal, all of these contributions will matter. There are grant-making and operating foundations. There is community philanthropy, corporate philanthropy, diaspora philanthropy, social impact investors, and online platforms for giving. Every year, new approaches to philanthropy and new vehicles for what we call private giving for the public good are created. It's an exciting sector to work in, and we at Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors are proud to serve more than 150 foundations and philanthropists to do thoughtful, effective philanthropy. This is just a drop in the ocean, of course, but it has given us a window into what matters most, translating the generosity, caring, and commitment of people with wealth to share into better lives for others and a healthier planet. Philanthropy largely ignored the MDGs. There were a few notable exceptions, but frankly, most institutions and individuals in this sector don't understand the UN system, don't understand or believe in how public policy is determined and implemented, and have little patience with processes like the one we are engaged in today. But that is changing. Beginning 2 years ago, a group of us in philanthropy began working with UNDP and others in the UN system, the Foundation Center, which holds the world's best data on philanthropy, and a group of governments to use this incredibly pivotal moment in time to build more bridges. Bridges so that when the post-2015 agenda takes off and when the SDGs come into force, the sector will be a real partner in a way that the civil society and business sectors have been for many years. We created the Post-2015 Partnership Platform for Philanthropy, and our events have drawn in several hundred participants in the US, Kenya, Colombia, Indonesia, and last week in Italy. At several events this year, unlike in the past, our meeting rooms have been filled to overflowing. Our portal, sdgfunders.org, will launch in the third week of September this year. Other foundations have supported the creation of the Common Position on Africa, global alliances on cities and secondary education, financial inclusion initiatives, and support for research centers and think tanks that will produce the data and knowledge critical for the success of the SDGs. Private giving from OECD DAC countries to DAC recipients in 2011 alone, in a year when those ODA flows were about US $132 billion, were $59 billion US dollars, or almost half of ODA. But a challenge is these are often fragmented efforts, not planned in light of national or global goals, and thus missing opportunities for synergy, for coordinated planning and scaling up impact, and for real systems change that tackles the root causes of today's problems. Not all wealthy people are philanthropists, and not all philanthropists are wealthy. But everyone who gives has a better chance of positive impact if they understand the context in terms of policies and practices that either enable or constrain achievement of their aims. The SDGs can make this easier for all of us. Many of us believe this is a watershed year for philanthropy and our grantees and partners to better engage with all development stakeholders. We don't want to be just another non-state actor, as we're often called, one not even mentioned within the major groups. And we see recognition in the HLPF and global partnership processes as a positive step forward. Our strengths are many, not least patient capital for research and community building and long-term social change, risk capital for innovation and untested ideas like microfinance in the 1980s and impact investing in the last 2 decades, which may become mainstream. Above all, we fund human ingenuity, tenacity, and effort, often against huge problems and against the odds. 4 things need to happen to create bridges going forward. First, the UN and governments must open your arms and create a more enabling environment for philanthropy, domestically and across borders. The space to operate must open, not close. Second, those in the philanthropy sector must stop working in silos and realize that collaboration with often slower-moving governments can have a payoff in terms of scaling up and leveraging our efforts. Third, we must have and contribute better data to underpin collaboration and help each of us better understand our part in achieving positive change. And fourth, the philanthropy sector, like governments, must continue to improve our accountability practices so the trust between sectors increases. Our efforts in the partnership platform I mentioned earlier are aiming to achieve those aims. And from now on, you will see us engaging even more as the focus shifts to implementation. Together, we at Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors, the Foundation Center, UNDP, the Conrad N. Hilton, Ford, MasterCard, and Brock Family Foundations, and many others, joined by philanthropy networks like WINGS, AFE in Colombia, and PFI in Indonesia, are working to, in turn, engage others. In conclusion, we in this sector can be your partners. We will remain independent and at times provocative, but always steadfast in our commitment to the ideals of the Millennium Declaration, which launched this century in these halls, and increasingly to the Post-2015 agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, whose achievement will determine the world's future. Thank you.